Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're diving into the world of bot detection.
Oh, cool.
It's a fascinating field.
Yeah.
Websites constantly try to stay ahead of those pesky bots.
Right.
You've given us some really interesting sources on this,
Uh-huh.
focusing on techniques like honeypots
Yeah.
and, of course, CAPTCHAs.
Yes.
Especially Google's reCAPTCHA.
Right.
So our deep dive today will uncover how these tools work and why they're so crucial in today's world.
It's like a constant, well, an arms race, isn't it? You know, as bots get more sophisticated, the methods for detecting them have to evolve as well.
Oh, absolutely. But before we jump into the specifics,
Sure.
I think it's really important to understand why bot protection is so critical.
Right.
I mean, why should anyone even care about these behind-the-scenes battles?
Well, imagine a website without any bot protection.
Oh, yeah.
It would be utter chaos.
Yeah.
You'd have spam comments just completely overrunning blogs.
Yeah.
Fake accounts would be everywhere.
Yeah.
And critical resources, overwhelmed.
Oh, yeah.
Denying access to legitimate users.
So it's not just about, stopping annoying spam.
Yeah.
It's about safeguarding the entire online experience.
Precisely. It's about maintaining the integrity of websites.
Right.
Protecting user data.
Yeah.
And ensuring a fair and functional online environment for everyone.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Now let's delve into some of the methods used to combat these digital mischief makers.
Yeah.
One technique that you provided some great information on is the concept of honeypots.
Right.
Can you paint a picture of how these work?
Imagine a hidden trapdoor in a video game.
Okay.
It's cleverly disguised so that only the AI-controlled enemies, the bots, fall for it.
Yeah.
That's essentially what a honeypot does. It's a hidden field within a website form that's invisible to us, to human users.
Right.
But bots, well, they're programmed to fill out every field.
Okay.
So they'll just blindly stumble into this trap,
Gotcha.
revealing their true nature.
So it's like a secret test that only humans can pass.
Yeah.
Because we know to avoid those suspicious-looking fields.
Exactly. And the beauty of honeypots is their simplicity.
Okay.
They're resource efficient.
Yeah.
And surprisingly effective at catching those basic bots.
Right.
The ones that haven't yet learned to be more discerning.
That's pretty clever. But your sources also mentioned that honeypots have their limitations.
Of course.
What are some of the drawbacks of relying solely on this technique?
Well, like any security measure, honeypots can be bypassed.
I see.
More sophisticated bots, they're designed to detect and avoid these hidden fields.
Okay.
It's like, think of it like this. As bots evolve, they learn to recognize and circumvent the simpler traps.
Yeah.
It's a constant game of adaptation.
So websites can't just set a few honeypots and call it a day.
No.
They need a more robust arsenal to combat the ever-evolving bot army.
Absolutely. And that brings us to a technique we're all familiar with.
Yeah.
Perhaps a bit too familiar at times. CAPTCHA.
Yeah.
It stands for Completely Automated Public Turing Test to tell computers and humans apart.
Ah, yes, CAPTCHA. We've all had our love-hate relationship with those distorted letters, image selections.
Yeah.
And, the occasional math problem thrown in for good measure.
Right.
I must admit, I've felt a sense of triumph after finally deciphering a particularly challenging one.
We've all been there. But behind that, sometimes frustrating user experience, lies a fundamental concept. The Turing test.
Yeah.
It's a test designed to determine if a machine can exhibit intelligent behavior that's indistinguishable from a human.
Right.
CAPTCHA, in essence, is a digital version of this test.
So by presenting us with challenges that are easy for humans but difficult for bots,
Yes.
CAPTCHA acts as a gatekeeper,
Right.
filtering out those automated intruders.
Exactly. And over the years, CAPTCHA has taken on various forms,
Right.
each with its strengths and weaknesses. But one thing remains constant. The aim is to create a challenge that humans can readily solve while bots struggle to decipher.
It's fascinating to see how CAPTCHA has become such a ubiquitous part of the online experience.
Yeah.
And speaking of CAPTCHA evolution, your sources focused heavily on Google's reCAPTCHA, which seems to have taken this concept to a whole new level.
It has.
Could you shed some light on how reCAPTCHA differs from traditional CAPTCHA?
Certainly. reCAPTCHA, developed by Google, has become the gold standard for bot protection.
Okay.
It's free.
Yeah.
Widely adopted.
Right.
And perhaps most importantly, it's constantly evolving to stay one step ahead of those increasingly clever bots.
So it's like the Google of CAPTCHAs.
Yeah.
You mentioned evolution.
Yes.
Your sources highlighted two main versions.
Right.
reCAPTCHA v2 and v3.
Uh-huh.
Let's start with v2.
Okay.
What are the key features of this iteration?
reCAPTCHA v2 builds on the traditional CAPTCHA model,
Okay.
but it incorporates more sophisticated techniques to enhance its effectiveness.
Right.
One of the most notable features is the I'm not a robot checkbox.
Right.
It seems simple.
Yeah.
But behind that single click lies a powerful system of behavioral analysis.
So reCAPTCHA v2 isn't just about clicking a box.
No.
It's about analyzing how you interact with the website.
Yes.
That's where things get really interesting.
It's like reCAPTCHA v2 is looking for those telltale signs that something's not quite human.
Like what kind of signs? Give me an example.
Well, mouse movements, for one.
Okay.
You see, humans tend to have subtle variations in the way they move their mouse. A little jitter here, a slight pause there.
Right.
Bots, on the other hand, often follow more predictable paths.
Oh, okay.
Almost robotic, you could say?
So you're saying reCAPTCHA is judging my mouse skills.
Not judging per se, but observing, analyzing.
Right. Analyzing.
It's also looking at things like variations in typing speed.
Oh, interesting.
Humans, we tend to speed up, slow down as we type,
Yeah, makes sense.
correcting errors, maybe pausing to think. But bots often maintain a very consistent pace.
So reCAPTCHA is watching every move I make online.
In a way, yes.
I'm starting to feel a little self-conscious about my online behavior now.
Well, it is fascinating how much these subtle cues can reveal.
It really is. It's all about pattern recognition, right?
Exactly. And when reCAPTCHA v2 detects patterns that deviate from what's considered normal human behavior, it might decide to throw in one of those image challenges just to be sure.
Right, those image challenges. Sometimes I actually enjoy those, like a little brain teaser.
I know what you mean.
It's like a little game.
They can be a bit addictive, but ultimately, their purpose is to verify human perception,
Makes sense.
which, despite all the advances in artificial intelligence, still surpasses machine vision in many ways.
Okay, so reCAPTCHA v2 is like a vigilant detective,
Yes.
constantly analyzing, adapting its approach to bot detection.
Right.
But you also mentioned a more hands-off approach, reCAPTCHA v3.
Yes.
Tell me, how does reCAPTCHA v3?
Yes.
Tell me, how does reCAPTCHA v3 differ from its predecessor?
Well, with reCAPTCHA v3, Google shifted from an interactive challenge response model to a more passive approach. It all happens behind the scenes.
Oh, so no more clicking on blurry pictures of crosswalks.
That's right.
I have to admit, that sounds pretty appealing from a user experience standpoint.
It is much more seamless.
But how does it actually work if it's not presenting us with challenges?
It's all about risk assessment. reCAPTCHA v3 runs in the background, silently observing user interactions and assigning a score.
A score. Based on what?
Based on the likelihood of that user being a bot.
So it's constantly evaluating our behavior even when we don't know it.
That's right.
Wow. That's impressive and maybe a little creepy. Can you walk me through how this score-based system works?
Sure. So as users interact with a website protected by reCAPTCHA v3, the system analyzes a lot of different factors.
Like what?
Mouse movements, scrolling patterns,
Okay.
even how the page is being rendered in the browser.
It's like reCAPTCHA v3 is creating a fingerprint of our online behavior.
You could say that.
What are these scores actually measuring?
Think of it as a measure of trust.
Trust.
A score closer to 0.0 means there's a higher chance of bot activity. And a score closer to 1.0 suggests it's a human.
So the higher your score, the more human you appear to reCAPTCHA v3.
Precisely.
It's almost like a digital trustworthiness rating. But I have to ask, this constant monitoring raises some privacy concerns. How much data is reCAPTCHA v3 actually collecting about us?
That's a valid concern, and one that Google has addressed. reCAPTCHA v3 collects significantly less data than the previous versions.
Okay, good.
It mainly focuses on interactions within a specific page.
Okay.
It's not tracking your browsing history
Right.
or collecting personally identifiable information.
Okay, that's good to hear. It sounds like it strikes a good balance between security and privacy.
That was the goal.
But this shift towards passive monitoring, I mean, how effective can it really be if it's not actively challenging users?
While it might seem less intrusive, it's actually very powerful. By continuously analyzing user behavior, it can detect patterns, anomalies that might point to a bot.
So it's like reCAPTCHA v3 is playing the long game.
You could say that.
Looking for those subtle cues over time,
Exactly.
rather than relying on just one interaction.
Right. And this approach has several advantages.
Oh, like what?
For one, it eliminates the need for those challenges, which can be frustrating.
Yeah.
So it leads to a much smoother user experience.
I see the appeal of that, definitely.
Yeah.
No more squinting at blurry images or trying to decipher distorted text. Seamless protection.
Exactly. And because it operates in the background, it doesn't interrupt the flow of user interactions.
Right.
And that can be really important for websites that are focused on engagement or conversion rates.
Yeah, makes sense.
Things like that.
So win-win for both website owners and users.
Hopefully.
Enhanced security without impacting the user experience.
Right.
But with all these different options, I mean, how does a website owner decide which bot detection method is right for them? Is there like one-size-fits-all solution?
Not really. The choice between reCAPTCHA v2, reCAPTCA v3, or even those more traditional methods like honeypots or CAPTCHAs, it really depends. Well, on the website's security needs,
Okay.
the sensitivity of the data being protected,
Right.
and the desired user experience.
So it's about picking the right tool for the job.
Exactly.
Okay.
Since a simple blog, for example, might just need a basic honeypot to prevent spam comments,
Right.
but an e-commerce site, one that's handling sensitive financial transactions, they might require the added security of reCAPTCHA v2 with its image challenges.
Right.
And a social media platform that's focused on engagement, they might go for the seamless protection of reCAPTCHA v3.
It's about finding the right level of security.
Yes.
One that aligns with the website's specific needs
Right.
and finding that balance between protection and user-friendliness.
Absolutely. And it's important to remember that this is a constantly evolving field. As bots get more sophisticated, the ways to detect them have to keep up.
It's like an endless arms race, both sides trying to outsmart each other. It makes you wonder, what does the future hold for bot detection? I mean, will we ever get to a point where bots are basically indistinguishable from humans?
That's a question that keeps a lot of cybersecurity experts up at night.
I bet.
As artificial intelligence continues to advance, it's certainly possible. Bots might become much better at mimicking human behavior.
It's a fascinating thought and a little unsettling. If we can't tell the difference, what does that mean for online security, for trust?
That's the real concern. If we reach a point where we can't reliably distinguish between humans and bots, it could erode trust in all online interactions, make it much harder to determine what information is real, which identities are authentic.
It's almost like a digital identity crisis.
You could say that.
If we can't be sure who or what we're interacting with online, it undermines everything.
It does. It really does. And that's why the evolution of bot detection is so crucial. It's not just about protecting websites from, spam or abuse. It's about safeguarding the entire online experience, making sure we can trust the information and the interactions we have in the digital world.
That's a really good point.
It's something we all need to think about.
You know, it's amazing we take for granted how much goes on behind the scenes to make the internet work.
We do. It's easy to forget all the complex systems working to keep things running smoothly and safely.
I feel like I've learned so much about that just in this deep dive into bot detection.
It's a fascinating area, and the more we understand about it, the better equipped we are to navigate the online world safely and responsibly.
I'm definitely looking at those CAPTCHAs differently now. They're not just an annoyance, they're like little guardians protecting us from the bot army.
They really are, and as we've discussed, they're constantly evolving to stay one step ahead of those bots. It's a constant game of cat and mouse.
Exactly. And I think you've done a fantastic job of explaining all of that. Thank you for being our guide in this digital jungle.
My pleasure. It's been a great conversation.
Before we sign off, I'd love to hear from our listeners. Have you ever encountered a CAPTCHA that made you scratch your head and wonder if you were the bot? Or maybe you've seen a bot in action that was surprisingly clever or just totally failed at its task. We'd love to hear your stories and thoughts on this.
Absolutely. Share your experiences and insights with us. We're all in this digital world together, and the more we understand about these challenges, the better prepared we'll be to face them.
So to all our fellow deep divers out there, stay curious, stay informed, and until next time, may your online journeys be safe and bot-free.
Farewell and happy browsing.